caught the energy of Buenos Aires in episode 1. But the city has a different face, more peaceful, more elegant, and occasionally full of surprises. And if there is one place that shows just how elegant and ambitious Buenos Aires is, it's the Teatro Colón. Opened in 1908, the theater was built during a time when the city was becoming one of the most important in the world. Everything here seems designed on a grand scale: marble, massive chandeliers, golden details, and an atmosphere that makes you lower your voice without even realizing it. But Teatro Colón isn't famous only for how it looks. It's for how it sounds. Its acoustics are considered among the best in the world. But in Buenos Aires, the show doesn't end when the curtain falls. El Ateneo Grand Splendid, a building that was once a theater and is today considered one of the most beautiful bookstores in the world. Here, stories are no longer performed on stage. Instead, they are quietly leafed through among the shelves. And the place still preserves the atmosphere of yesteryear without having lost any of its original charm. Once you leave El Ateneo, you begin to realize that in Buenos Aires, the past never fully disappears. Perhaps one of the best examples of this is San Telmo. A place where the historic buildings, the traditional cafes, and the neighborhood's very atmosphere still seem to hold on to a piece of the Buenos Aires of yesterday. After the atmosphere of San Telmo, you arrive at a place that feels completely detached from the rest of the city. The Buenos Aires Japanese Garden. It was built in the 1960s for the visit of the Crown Prince of Japan to Argentina. Not far from here lies the Carlos Thais Botanical Garden. With shaded pathways and plants brought from every corner of the world. and right next to it, the Buenos Aires Eco Parque. The city's former zoo transformed today into a more open and natural space. After the gardens, you arrive at a place where Buenos Aires seems to gather every evening almost by reflex. Pizzeria Güerrín. The place is nearly always crowded, people waiting in line, waiters squeezing between tables, and others eating their slices standing up right at the counter. Open since 1932, the pizzeria has become a true landmark of the city. Every day, over 2,500 pizzas come out of their ovens. To make this happen, they use more than 1,300 kilograms of mozzarella. And when the pizza arrives, you immediately understand why this place has remained so famous for nearly a century. A thick crust, an enormous amount of mozzarella, and that kind of taste that makes you pause for a few seconds after the first bite. It's not hard to see why many say you can find one of the best pizzas in the world here. Honestly, we left with the exact same impression. But Buenos Aires also has places where time seems to have stood still, like the Hippodrome Argentino de Palermo. Opened at the end of the 19th century, this racecourse is famous for its sand track and that vintage atmosphere it still manages to preserve. Sometimes, this feeling spills over onto the streets, especially when restored vintage buses appear, used for filming and scenes that recreate the Buenos Aires of yesteryear. And then you realize that Buenos Aires doesn't actually end at Buenos Aires. Because just a short distance from the city, the Delta del Tigre begins. It is a completely different world. Canals, boats, houses built on stilts, and a rhythm that seems to follow a different set of rules than those of the city.
Belgrano fue uno de nuestros próceres más importantes, quien creó nuestra bandera hace ya 200 años.
Tigre has that rare feeling of a place where you don't feel like you have to do anything in particular, just to be there. And perhaps that is what stays with you most after visiting Buenos Aires. Not a single place, not a single image, but the shifting moods you experience from one neighborhood to the next. The way the city can be elegant, hectic, nostalgic, and peaceful, all almost in the same day. Buenos Aires doesn't try to be perfect, and perhaps that is exactly why it manages to remain so memorable.